I welcome you to the course Psychology of Individual Differences, and today our topic is Humanistic Approach to Personality. And students, after finishing this lecture, you will be able to know the basic concept of humanistic perspective, the basic assumptions of humanism, views of Abraham Maslow on self-actualization, the characteristics of Carl Rogers' self-theory, and the characteristics of a fully functioning person as given by Carl Rogers. Dear students, humanistic approach to personality attempts to study the whole person and the uniqueness of each individual. This perspective begins with the existential assumptions that people have free will and are motivated to achieve their highest potential. Terming it differently, it focuses on individual free will, personal growth, and self-actualization. The humanistic approach is often viewed as the third force in psychology after psychoanalysis and behaviorism. In fact, it developed as a response to psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Humanism rejected the assumptions of the behaviorist perspective on certain reasons that it is characterized as deterministic, focused on reinforcement of stimulus response behavior and dependent on animal research. It also rejected the psychodynamic approach because as being deterministic, focused on unconscious, irrational and instinctive forces determining behavior. Humanistic psychologists regarded both behaviorism and psychoanalysis as dehumanizing. Humanistic perspective, in fact, emerged as an alternative theory that sought to give greater prominence to the special and unique features of human functioning than to the mechanistic principles that characterized psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Humanists felt that behaviorists regarded people as machines that could be predicted and controlled. For them, they gave little or no weight to consciousness and other distinctly human characteristics. In fact, these perspectives failed to acknowledge the free will and autonomy of individuals. In contrast to the behaviorist and psychoanalytic views, humanism focused on the potential of individuals and highlighted each person's subjectivity, consciousness, free will, and other special human qualities. The sole goal of humanists was to help individuals realize their innate human and grand potential. In the opinion of humanistic psychologists, all people have the potential for creativity, positive outlook, and the pursuit of higher values. They highlighted that if people can fulfill their full potential, they will inevitably lead a positive life of psychological growth. As a matter of fact, it emphasizes on a person's sense of self and each individual's attempts to achieve personal competence and self-esteem. According to this approach, human nature is viewed as good. Humanistic theorists focus on methods that allow fulfillment of potential. Humanistic psychology thus reflects a humanistic trend in dealing with and understanding human behavior. It strongly believes in the goodness of man and prides man's positive nature. Contrary to the unconscious of psychoanalytical psychology, here in humanism, a person's conscious experience forms the basic structure of his or her personality. Hence, the approach adopted by humanists does not assume that personality is governed by biological forces from within, or that destructive drives are inherent in human beings. But instead points out that people have potential for self-actualization through spontaneity, creativity and personal growth. Now, basic assumptions of humanistic psychology. The basic assumptions of humanistic psychology begin with the existential assumption that people have free will. This approach lays more emphasis on the personal worth of the individual. It highlights the importance of human values and the creative nature of human beings. For humanists, people are basically good and have an innate craving to make the world a better place. They exercise their free will and make their own choices in their lives. The approach is optimistic and hence asserts that people can make use of their noble human capacities to overcome hardship, pain and despair. For humanists, human beings choose and decide how to behave in their choice, and decision is based on their subjective assessment of a situation. Hence, the approach emphasizes personal responsibility. It means that people have their free choice and will. In fact, this assumption contrasts with both behaviorism and psychoanalysis, which both assume some form of determinism. Determinism refers to the assumption that all behavior has specific causes. For the behaviorists, behavior is dictated by environmental factors such as reinforcers. For the psychoanalysts, the individual is governed by innate drives whose influence is largely unconscious. Humanists, in contrary, argue that individuals make choices which cannot be controlled or predicted by external stimuli or unconscious drivers of humans. People are motivated to self-actualize. Humanistic approach lays emphasis on the importance of personal growth. People are not content with merely meeting their current needs, but wish to progress toward bigger goals such as becoming the best they can be. Self-actualization refers to one's psychological growth, fulfillment and satisfaction in life. People seek to grow psychologically and continuously enhance themselves. Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, the prominent humanists, regarded personal growth and fulfillment in life as a basic human motive. The subjective, conscious experiences of the individual are most important. There is another assumption of humanism, that is, humanists stress that behavior must be understood in terms of the subjective experiences of the individual. In order to understand human behavior, people need to understand the person who is actually producing the behavior. It is only that individual who can explain the meaning of a particular behavior. Behaviorists oppose this viewpoint and argue that what people think or say is irrelevant to the explanation of behavior. For them, it is the environment that causes the particular behavior. Psychoanalysts, on the other hand, assert that individuals cannot explain their own behavior because the causes are largely unconscious. These two approaches devalue the significance of subjective experience. Then, humanistic psychologists are of the view that a person's subjective perception and understanding of the world is of vital importance. This highlights their notion that personality is studied from the point of view of the individual's own subjective experience. It is on this basis that the humanistic approach is called as phenomenological approach. For Rogers, The focus of psychology is neither behavior nor the unconscious. Rather, it is how individuals perceive and interpret events. Then there is next assumption: humanism rejects scientific methodology. Humanistic approach rejects scientific methodology like experiments and prefers to use qualitative research methods like diary accounts, open-ended questionnaires, unstructured interviews, and unstructured observations. Since qualitative research is useful for studies at the individual level, it helps to find out in depth the ways in which people think or feel, for example, the case studies. In order to really understand other people, it is better to talk to them, share their experiences, and be open to their feelings. Then, the next assumption: humanism rejected comparative psychology, that is, the study of animals. According to the views of humanism, human beings are fundamentally different from other animals because humans are conscious beings capable of thought, reason, and language. They argue that comparative psychology, that is the study of animals, cannot tell us much about human thought, behavior, and experience. For humanistic psychologists, research on animals such as rats, pigeons, or monkeys cannot help us to understand human and hence is of little value. Dear students, now let us understand the Abraham Maslow's contribution to humanistic psychology. Abraham H. Maslow, the American humanist psychologist, is the profounder of an influential humanistic theory of personality. He has been the major theorist adopting the humanistic approach for studying human behavior and personality. For him, human beings are basically good and there lies in everyone an impulse or craving towards growth or the fulfillment of one's potentials. The ultimate goal of humans is to seek self-actualization. It comes from the pursuit of knowledge, the appreciation of beauty, playfulness, self-sufficiency, insight into the truth, or other constructive and creative expressions. Thus, the behavior or personality of a human being depends upon his unique style of striving towards the ultimate goal of self-realization. According to Maslow's theory, human needs exist in a hierarchy ranging from physiological needs on the bottom through safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and finally self-actualization needs at the top. For Abraham Maslow, lower order needs must be satisfied before we can turn to more complex higher order needs. As a matter of fact, these higher order needs can't serve as motives until lower level needs have been satisfied. Thus, a hungry person who lives from hand to mouth won't be very interested in self-actualizing. If an individual's safety is threatened, he or she won't focus on gaining others' approval. According to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it is the final stage of development, that is self-actualization. For Maslow, man's craving for the actualization of his inner potential continues till he reaches his ultimate goal of attaining fine humanistic values. A person can go for actualizing his self when a person is able to take full advantage of his or her talents. As a matter of fact, the attainment of self-actualization involves one's full involvement in life. It involves the realization of that which one is capable of accomplishing. For Maslow, it is the need to become everything that one is capable of becoming. Self-actualized are the people who accept themselves for what they are. They know themselves and recognize their shortcomings as well as their strengths. They are spontaneous and creative people. They are not bound to strictly by social conventions. Self-actualized persons may reach their full human potential and sometimes have what Maslow describes as peak experiences. The needs associated with self-actualization according to Abraham Maslow include acceptance of facts, lack of prejudice, ability to solve problems, sense of morality, then creativity, spontaneity. The process of self-actualization differs from person to person. All individuals do not achieve all levels of the hierarchy throughout their lives. For Maslow, achieving self-actualization is rare and only about 1% of the adult population has self-actualized. Then, self-actualization characteristics or traits. For Abraham Maslow, self-actualization refers to the realization of one's full potential. As a matter of fact, this realization of potential can occur in many ways, but generally includes the achievement of a sound psychological health and a strong sense of fulfillment. So many characteristics are associated with self-actualized people. Self-actualized people generally accept themselves and others. They have a well-developed sense of creativity. They maintain deep and meaningful relationships. They can exist autonomously, have a sense of humor. They accurately perceive reality pertaining to the self and others. They do experience moments of peak experiences. They demonstrate empathy and compassion for others. They have an appreciation of the goodness of life. Since self-actualization involves a strong sense of purpose and self-awareness, it can be a challenging goal to reach. Self-actualization is the realization of one's basic human potential to the maximum extent. Abraham Maslow's theory thus presents a very bright picture of human behavior and personality by setting an ultimate motivating goal of self-actualization. Now let us understand Carl Rogers' views about humanism. Carl Rogers, an American psychologist, propounded a new theory of personality, commonly known as the self theory. The theory propounded by Carl Rogers played an important role in the emergence of humanistic psychology. He laid emphasis on the importance of an individual's self for determining the process of his growth, development, and appropriate adjustment to his environment. There are two basic systems underlying his personality theory, which include the organism and the self. The organism is an individual's entire frame of reference and represents the totality of his experience, both conscious and unconscious. So far as the second system of the self is concerned, it is the accepted aware part of the self and the relevant experiences. In fact, human beings have inherited the tendency to develop their self in the process of interpersonal and social experiences, which they acquire in the environment. In other words, our inner world that is in the form of our natural impulses, interacts with our total range of experience to form the concept of ourself. So, we are in a continuous process of building the concept of ourself in this manner. The developed concept of the self thus may differ from person to person, as it is purely based on one's own personal experiences. One thing is important, that an individual's adjustment, happiness, growth and development all depend upon the union and harmony between the image of his self and the organism, that is, the experiences or situations he or she meets in his or her life. According to Rogers, a person normally possesses considerable capacity for growth and the realization of his individual potential, and thus tries to advance continuously towards the development of his self, that is, self actualization, to lead to harmony between the concept of his self and his real self experiences, resulting in feelings of his self integrity, self fulfillment and a satisfying sense of psychological growth. The main assumption of Carl Rogers' theory is that human beings show many positive characteristics and strive toward becoming fully functioning persons. In the opinion of Carl Rogers, such people strive to experience life to the fullest, live in the present and thus trust their own feelings. These people are sensitive to the needs and rights of others. They have their own standards to shape their feelings or actions. The fully functioning people are dominated by constructive impulses and are in close touch with their own values and feelings, and experience life more deeply than most other persons. Carl Rogers, the humanistic psychologist, is of the opinion that for a person to grow, he or she needs an environment that provides him or her with genuineness, that is, openness and self disclosure, acceptance, that is, being seen with unconditional positive regard, and empathy, that is, being listened to and understood. Self actualization in terms of Rogers. Rogers, as a humanist, rejected the deterministic nature of both psychoanalysis and behaviorism, and hence maintained that we behave as we do because of the way we perceive our situations. For Carl Rogers, humans have one basic motive, that is the tendency to self actualize. It means to fulfill one's potential and achieve the highest level of human beingness. Terming it differently, Rogers views that the human organism has an underlying actualizing tendency which aims to develop all capacities of an individual. Rogers asserts that people are inherently good and creative. They will flourish and reach their potential if their environment is good enough to stimulate their full potential. Carl Rogers asserted that for a person to achieve self-actualization, he or she must be in a state of congruence. This means that self-actualization is possible when a person's ideal self, that is, who they would like to be, is congruent with their actual behavior, that is, self-image. Rogers describes a self-actualized individual as a fully functioning person. Now, students, let us understand the characteristics of a fully functioning person. In the views of Carl Rogers, a fully functioning person is one who is in touch with his or her deepest and innermost feelings and desires. Such individuals understand and trust their own emotions, instincts, and urges. A fully functioning person lives in the moment and works towards perfecting it. These people fully appreciate the present and don't look back to the past or forward to the future. That is, they are living for the moment. The fully functioning persons possess the following characteristics. They never live in the past and never criticize adverse situations. They are open to life experiences. Here, both positive and negative emotions are accepted. They have a clear and tangible time-bound goals. They have integrity and are committed to their values, have strong faith in the purpose of life. They actively involve themselves in mentoring people. They never display defensiveness towards criticism, maintain unconditional self-regard or self-esteem or self-worth. They live in harmony with other people, respect everybody irrespective of their social and financial status. They are happy and satisfied with life and look for new challenges and experiences. They do possess creative thinking and risk-taking behaviors. This involves their ability to change, adjust, and seek new experiences. For Rogers, a fully functioning person is well adjusted, well balanced, and interesting to seek and know new and challenging experiences. Such people are often found as high achievers in society. As stated earlier, Carl Rogers asserted that for a person to achieve self-actualization, they must be in a state of congruence. According to Rogers, our feelings, experiences, and behaviors must be consistent with our self-image. We are the more consistent or congruent if our self-image and ideal self are similar or closer to each other. Hence, a person is said to be in a state of incongruence if some of the totality of their experience are unacceptable to them. Students, to sum up, we may say that the humanistic approach indeed contributes a lot to our understanding of human behavior and personality. Humanists assert that humans strive for growth, dignity, and self-determination are important in the development of personality. Humanistic theorists propose that individuals are responsible for their own actions. This contradicts with determinism, the idea that behavior is determined by numerous factors and can be predicted from them. According to humanistic psychology, man is not a conditioned or tension-reducing organism, rather motivated to grow psychologically and realize and or actualize his own full potential. As a matter of fact, this approach emphasizes the personal worth of the individual, the centrality of human values, and the creative, active nature of human beings. The approach proves as very much optimistic and focuses on the noble human capacity to overcome hardship, pain, and despair. Students, it was all for today. I hope you might have enjoyed and understood the session. Thanks.